You.
You!
You.
You ought to know!
Hi, I'm Alexis, so this is our new channel, You Ought to Know.
Hi, and I'm Julia, and welcome to our channel. So obviously this is our first video, a nice little introduction video for you to get to know us. We already know each other, and that's kind of what we want to talk a little bit about, is how we met each other, where we kind of are in our lives, how life happens, how things intersect, how our experiences are, and we're just gonna take some time to talk a little bit about that. I will like to start this off a little bit by saying Alexis and I obviously do not live in the same place. We are on two different cameras right now. The reason for that is I am up in the Northeast and
Southeast.
but we met out in Utah in college back in 2009. So yeah, okay, Alexis. When we first got room together, so for me, that was actually my junior year of college. So that was my third year in school. And for you, that was your freshman year of college. So yeah, we kind of had this fun experience where, I don't know, how was it for you? When you got the room assignments, I know for me, I saw oh, okay, I don't even think I knew how old any of you were. So it was just kind of a little bit of researching, but I don't know, what's a little bit of your first impressions coming to school? I had already been in school for 3 years, so I'm curious, how'd you feel coming in as a freshman?
So starting school for me was terrifying because I actually graduated my junior year of high school, and my freshman year was technically my senior year of high school, so I didn't have a senior year. So I went straight into college on a dorm room, on campus in a dorm room with totally new people. So I was 17 and freaking out because I knew I'd be with older people. And I definitely, once I got they send you an email of who your roommates are going to be, and I went on Facebook and I looked everyone up, and I looked up Julia for sure, and just tried to get to know who they were before we would be living together, just to see if we had any common interest. And looking through Julia's profile specifically, I noticed we liked similar books. She looked cool, she looked in style, seems like she liked the outdoors, but I was totally in stalker mode because I was incredibly nervous.
Oh my god, I was in stalker mode too. I remember looking at your Facebook and seeing that you were working at a summer camp, and my mind was blown. I'm like, they also work at a summer camp. I am a huge nerd for that kind of stuff. And I also remember seeing on your Facebook one of the first books we bonded on, which now has a lot of controversy around it. It was actually 13 Reasons Why. And I remember talking about that and bonding over that, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be a pretty cool year, hopefully. I get to have, another camp counselor to hang out with. They seem alternative, and I was definitely more under the alternative category. So yeah, I remember another weird thing for me was the room that we got assigned was actually the same dorm that I lived in my freshman year. But for me, what was really weird is you got the assignment for room C, and I had the assignment for room A. And my freshman year, I actually had room C. I literally lived in your room freshman year.
You know, I had forgotten all about that. I remember you telling me that, you're in my room, and I'm like, no, it's my room, I'm setting it up. But now it's actually kind of a cool little thing that we shared. Side note about that room, it was right by the elevator in that hall, at the end of the hall, so in the middle of the night you could hear people, you could hear it ding, and people coming out of the elevator, and it was super annoying. But I loved that we can bond over that. I had totally forgotten, so that's really special.
Let's see, a little bit about that first year. We weren't the only ones in the dorm. There were two other people Technically, there was a total of 3 other people that year, because one decided not to carry on with their schooling halfway through the year and moved out. That was fun. I definitely remember a lot of food being left in the microwave and chicken, and it wasn't from you, luckily, it was from the other roommate. Oh, that was fun to say the least. But to ADD real quick, back to what you were originally saying, it was kind of interesting when you mentioned that you didn't have your high school years, you didn't have senior year. And in some respects, I can really relate to that as well, whereas I left public schooling at 15. So 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I didn't go to school. I was technically homeschooled. So it's always so weird seeing these, similar things that have happened between you and I.
Yeah, I think that we share a lot of shared experiences, and I feel like I remember when you sign up for housing, you take a little questionnaire, I want to get a hold of that questionnaire to see how they paired people together, because I feel like they did a really good job. Obviously, they didn't do such a good job with the one roommate that left chicken in the microwave, and I also shared a bathroom with that roommate, and it was always disgusting, and I was always the responsible one that had to clean it, and it totally sucked. But anyway, like I said, I really want to, see if we could find a housing questionnaire to, how they pair roommates together, because that would be really interesting to see, because they did a really good job on us, because between camp and being more alternative, and we liked some of the same books, I think we just hit it off really fast.
I will say, though, some of the housing situations haven't always been the best, because the other years that I wasn't roomed with you, not so good. But hey, I got to room with you for a little bit. Hearing you talk about sharing a shower reminds me of actually a college story, and it's not necessarily one when I roomed with you, but I think it kind of touches on what it's like to live with people that you've never lived with before. So I shared my bathroom with a roommate, and she came banging on my door and was like, "You are so disgusting." And I was like, "What did I do?" Warning, if you don't like bodily fluids, this next comment is going to be gross, but it's not as bad as you hear the story goes on. She's like, "There is period blood all over the shower. You are the grossest person ever." And I was just like, what? No. Yeah, then she was really, really dumb and forgot that she was using special color corrective shampoo that was bright red for her hair that was dyed red, and it got all over the shower. Roommates are gross.
Yeah, roommates can be really gross, especially when they're not clean. Luckily, you and one of our other roommates was pretty clean, and it was especially hard for me because my siblings were older and out of the house, so basically from age 12 onward, I was an only child, so I only had to share a bathroom with me and pretty much had the whole upstairs to myself. So being thrown into a smallish area with 3 other people was a bit jarring, and it's definitely something you have to adjust to.
So another cool thing that we definitely shared in common, I'm scooching back further and further. Hi, world. We also bonded just on our major, actually. It was a really cool time in my life. Like I said, I was a junior, but I had actually just recently changed my major into psychology. And that's right when you started school, and your major was psychology. So it was really cool being able to take a lot of the same classes together. I will say, you totally beat me on grades.
That's hilarious, and I probably did, because I'm a snob when it comes to my grades in school. No, you know what, they probably roomed us together, maybe it's because of the psychology major, but I know for me, I was interested in it because, they always say, they're just all psychology majors are trying to figure themselves out, right? And I was definitely a kid and into my adult life suffering from depression and anxiety that wasn't getting better. And I'm like, well, maybe this can help. And it's something I was interested in. And I remember you saying you were an art major before you switched to psychology. So maybe you could talk about like why it is you switched to psychology and left the art major world.
Ooh, that's a good question. And I like your comment about like, those who can't try to learn more. And, I definitely felt that when going into psychology, but I would never admit it. I would never tell anybody that I'm going into psychology to understand myself better. Which is probably not the best thing to do, of just having a world of self-denial. But I too later learned and understood things that I deal with. I too have anxiety, depression, and also ADD, which I'm sure you'll see plenty of those symptoms. For art, oh goodness. So I was an art major for 2 years, visual communications and design. So basically that was graphic design, but we gave it a fancy term. And the reason why I left was because in a class of 20 people, my work would be within the top 10 in terms of like how well it looked. But there were probably 20 people in the class who could work faster and more efficiently than I could. And when I thought about that in the real world, I realized that there are going to be people out there who can get the work done faster than I can. And the idea of putting deadlines on my creative process was really difficult for me. And it suddenly wasn't fun for me anymore. And I didn't feel like my skill was progressing at all. And it's hard to go to school for art to get better at doing art. It's more you kind of learn new mediums and how to apply them in the real world. And it just didn't work out for me. So a friend of mine basically told me that they were going into wilderness therapy, which was being a professional camp counselor. And I was just like, I can do that. I'm in.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I know just from, personally, I wouldn't want to be in the business world doing art just because, and things I've heard from other artists, that it kind of stifles their own creativity. They're getting dictated about what they have to make, how fast they have to do it, and it becomes a slog, and it kind of, I guess, can grate your spirit and your creative mindset, I guess, which I would have a hard time with. And yeah, wilderness therapy I looked into myself because we had a similar interest in camp and stuff, but didn't end up going that route. But that was just yet another thing we talked about. And I remember us watching a show together it wasn't on TV, but it was through, I can't remember what it was called. What was it called?
Okay, so I remember this because I was literally addicted to this TV show. It was called Brat Camp. It aired on ABC Family. And I ripped all of the video. Somebody had uploaded it on YouTube a long time ago, and I actually ripped all of the video off of YouTube. So somewhere I have that video stashed on a hard drive. But yeah, it was a show about a few teens that came from England and were sent to a wilderness therapy program in Utah called Aspen Achievement. And Utah was a very big mecca for wilderness therapy. So I think me going to school out there kind of allowed me to feel like I was networking to end up working in that area. But ironically, my first job ended up being in Maine.
Yeah, Utah is a big place for wilderness therapy as well as other types of treatment centers, and I actually used my psychology degree for about 2 years working in a treatment center, which was one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, but it was also one of the most, not even difficult, but just it was just emotionally draining at times, which I think I just couldn't keep up with my own emotions and my own personal problems. And Since moving, I haven't looked into any of that in the Southeast. I know there are some programs and places, but I don't know if I'll continue in the psychology route. Right now I'm working for myself in art, and I am enjoying that so much better because it's just a lot more relaxing.
I think that's some really good topics that we can jump into on another video for sure. The fact that both you and I have experience working in residential treatment centers and working with adolescents. I think that's something we can definitely do a video on in the future and talk more about that. And also talk about our art, because both of us are very artsy people, and we would like to share that with the rest of you. So with that being said, we've talked for about 20 minutes or so. And, we hope that you enjoy listening to us. We hope that you enjoy this communication method. Just tell you a little bit about how this video is happening. Now I'm telling you at the end of it, but I'll let you know. We're using an app called Marco Polo, and how it works is we're actually able to do videos back and forth. That way we're making sure we're not talking over each other. We're not interrupting each other. There's a lot of other mediums that are similar to that right now. So how you watch this video is exactly how we're seeing ourselves communicate with each other. Every Tuesday we're going to be posting on our Instagram what the next topic is, so definitely check that out. It's You Ought To Know on Instagram, and then obviously on YouTube if you're watching us here. So yeah, keep following us and enjoy the videos to come.
We hope that you enjoy us and our antics as we trip and stumble down memory lane with all of our many stories, and there are several things that you ought to know.